Hi,
Hey
Claire.
Donna. Hi, glad you're here.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and we did make the decision. I don't know if everybody can hear me, but for these meetings, we weren't going to be having the AI friends, our AI friends on our co-pilots, but we will be recording, so you'll have access to a recording of this Lunch and Learn. Hi, Shannon.
Howdy. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Debbie. It's always fun when we all know each
I
other.
know.
Such a friendly, safe group of people. Okay. I want to give it a few minutes because I know what happened to Chanel. Chanel tells me that quite a few people signed up for this. But what I might do is go ahead and get started, just do some introductory things so that we can get Jenny going because she's the main attraction today. Hey,
Happy to
Kendra.
start.
Kendra. Okay, so for those that are on already, welcome. And uh, I'm hoping we have a bunch more and that there really isn't time for introductions. So I'm going to be asking people to put your name in your affiliation into the chat box so that we have a record of everybody who's here. And this will be recorded, and this Lunch and Learn topic will be available on our website at some point. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Everybody's putting your name in the chat box. That's great. Affiliation. And just really happy you're here. So welcome to the fourth of five Lunch and Learns sponsored by the brand new employer-led collaborative, statewide employer-led collaborative that Impart Alliance is helping to facilitate and helping you to establish. So it's an exciting time for direct care worker employers, and I think this group, the employer-led collaborative, is really going to be a great vehicle for all of you to have a bigger voice in the state and to be able to network, talk with each other, be supportive of each other, and have a bigger voice at the state level with policy reforms that align with what it is you need to be successful employers. So that's what this group is all about. Um, Happy to have you as members right now. The only membership requirement is that you get your name on our email list. Um, but there are a lot of benefits to doing that, and we're trying to spread the word. And I will say, even though they're not on the call today, the um, list is growing rapidly, which gives you an indication, I think, of employers' desire to start to be connecting with each other more and more effectively. Um, So part of this is the Lunch and Learn series. We had five scheduled. They were based on employer requested topics. Our first couple of meetings of the ELC, we said we were going to do this, and the employers gave us these topics. This one today is on credentialing, which I'll just say a couple of things about, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jenny because we're really fortunate to have Jenny talking with us today. There is one more lunch and learn, and that is around our career success model, which will be on March 5th. And the speakers will be to be determined, but likely will include me and Kendra and maybe Milani, who are in the middle of developing this career success model. I do want to let you know, though, that we're going to keep the Lunch and Learn series going. It's been popular, successful, and I think important topics for this group. So we have some ideas for topics. We will introduce next time an extension of this series and some additional dates. But if you have some topics that you really would love to know more about, please put them in the chat or send us an email. Send Chanel an email so that we can keep this going. For those of you that have not been, or for those of you that have been here, you know, the employer-led collaborative meetings outside of these lunch and learn meetings are regular. And the next one is scheduled for Thursday, the 19th. And that's at, I believe, 9 o'clock. Is that right, Chanel?
Yes.
Okay, 9 o'clock on the 19th is our next meeting. I encourage all of you to come. We've got a lot to talk about. There's so much happening already, even though this group is quite new. We have 2 work groups that are already in place. One is around governance, so that this employer-led collaborative is actually employer-led and it's set up the way you want it to be set up. We also have one around event planning with one event in particular in the works, and that is the employer-led collaborative hosted employer summit, which is going to be March 10th. There's a planning meeting this afternoon to nail down some of the details, after which we will start to let everybody know more about it and promote it. But it's going to be a really super exciting event. I'm excited about it. So more information coming on that. And then one other thing that is in development right now is the My Care Career Connect platform. I always have to think about that one. That is something that MDHHS has been developing for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's meant to be a matching platform where employers and direct care workers can match, get in there and find a good match. For the employers, if you're looking for a particular direct care worker, and vice versa, a direct care worker looking for employment, it is a job matching platform. And it is just about ready to go. And you're going to get some news about that soon. And we're hoping you will spread the word. But the first thing you have to do is get your profile in there. So I'm encouraging all of the employers to get your profiles in there. And Chanel and I will send out some information about that real soon about how you can do that. Okay, let's move on to the topic today. And for those of you who have been following the work of Impart Alliance and the MDHHS Direct Care Workforce Advisory Committee, you know that setting up credentials for direct care workers across Michigan, especially those that are not credentialed right now, so the non-CNAs, is a cornerstone of our strategies to expand and support the direct care workforce in Michigan. It's all part of that idea of professionalizing this workforce, which is crucial. And, there are components of any profession, the hallmarks of any profession would be some quality standards, competency standards, which we've already established here in Michigan, some credentials, some career paths, and then being able to wrap training around these competencies, credentials around these competencies. But credentials are a key part of this. And Impart Alliance has been working for the last 2 years with a group called Corporation for a Skilled Workforce to do just that, to develop credentials for direct care workers in Michigan that are recognized by employers, payers, all, and that can work across all population settings and have a high portability and respect. We are really at the end of developing technically five, new credentials for direct care workers, which I'm super excited about. And that's what today's conversation is going to be around: the importance of credentials, how we are making those happen in Michigan, the process that we've gone through to get to this point, which is really a historical landmark milestone for us. And it's, why are these important? What kind of credentials are we putting in place? And we're going to allow plenty of time at the end for questions, because I know you probably all have a lot of questions around this. The institutional home right now is going to be within the Import Alliance at Michigan State University. We're in the process of putting an infrastructure in place to support the whole credentialing process. And, but we have reached the point where we're ready to have a contract with a credential management firm to help Michigan set up a system for this. So I am going to turn it over now to Jenny, who is from Corporation for a Skilled Workforce and has been absolutely immersed in this whole process over the last 2 years and probably knows much more about it than I do even, but she can explain what we're trying to achieve and the whole process that we've gone through to get to this amazing point in time. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenny, who is Senior Policy Associate at Corporation for a Skilled Workforce. And we've just been really privileged to work with her in the CSW team. So Jenny, it's all yours.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Claire, for the introduction. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I see some folks on here who were actually involved with this process and even presenting about this process before. So I just want to make sure I share the right one. All good. Okay, great. So again, thanks again for having me. As Claire mentioned, I'm a Senior Policy Associate at CSW. I'm really excited to get a chance to talk about this again. Again, we're going to talk about how we've been working CSW with Impart Alliance and other partners to professionalize DCWs through the development of the direct care workforce, actually through the development of competency-based credentials. And again, this presentation is about more than just kind of a process. It is process oriented, but it's about more than a process or a project. It's about elevating this critical workforce that we all know individuals, families, and communities rely on every day. So for the next about 20 minutes, I'll walk you through the steps we've taken, how the process has centered DCW voices, and the vision that exists for creating a system that is valuing, as Claire mentioned, credentials and skill and quality above all else. So, and again, this is just kind of a quick, I like to have one of these so you know where we're headed. So again, won't spend too much time on the acknowledgements, but this has been a collaborative effort, obviously. And so CSW has really been fortunate to be a part and be one of the partners that is doing this work and supported to do it. But really, it's been a collective effort. And as Claire mentioned, it's pretty amazing that we're at the point that we're at now in terms of actually thinking about launching these credentials. So I will take a brief moment to tell you about Corporation for a Skilled Workforce, or CSW. We're a national nonprofit that's been around since 1991. We're based in Michigan, but our work spans across the country. And our mission is to catalyze change in education and labor market systems so that every person has the opportunity to succeed, especially people who have been traditionally left out of labor market success. And within CSW, I'm part of our competencies and credentials team, and our focus is on improving credentialing systems in the US. So we work to make them more transparent, portable, and connected to real skills. So that's the perspective we brought to this project, making sure that what is being built for direct care workers in Michigan is credible, competency-based, and connected to opportunities for advancement. Oh, also, I just want to know as I'm going forward, I am not good at presenting and looking at the chat and slide at the same time. So if something comes up, Claire, please feel free to interrupt me. Otherwise we can get to it at the end. So caveat there. So I just wanted to share this slide too. It's kept in from a previous presentation, but I think it's useful. One of the reasons this project has been so successful is because it's been a true collaboration. And of course, we at CSW have been working to support Impart Alliance in developing these credentials. So Impart Alliance really has served as the subject matter expert for the entire initiative, shaping the content, validating competencies, bringing a deep on-the-ground understanding of Michigan's direct care workforce. They've ensured that everything we've developed reflects real work of DCW's every day across a variety of care settings. And of course, I represent CSW. We've really served as a strategy and project management consultant, coordinating stakeholders, managing timelines, keeping the work. And I think this is important. It won't come up as much in this conversation, but you should know it's operating in the background, keeping the work aligned with national standards for credential development. We've also partnered with Global Skills Exchange or GSX to manage the technical certification development process from start to finish. So those are like kind of the exam experts, psychometricians. And then we've also got a partner, Bill West with K West Associates, who's been working with us to ensure that the stackable credentials and certification find an exam administrator or credential management company. There's a couple different terms that describe these sort of places, but find an administrative partner that meets the needs of workers, employers, and the state, right? And I share this about the collaboration because it's blending expertise. And so you can see all these different players are bringing to this process on the ground knowledge, systems level perspective, technical rigor. And this combination is ensuring that what we built, that is being built for, basically built for DCWs, is not only meaningful for workers and employers, but also credible and defensible as a formal credentialing process, because we know this is a lot about quality. So why industry recognized credentials? We know that competencies, so the skills and knowledge DCWs demonstrate on the job, should be the foundation for how they're recognized and rewarded. When workers prove they have competencies, they should earn credentials that are meaningful. And so what does that look like in practice? Credentials should be recognized across payers and programs so that workers don't have to start over every time they move between jobs or settings. Credentials should be valid across settings and populations, whether someone is working in home and community-based services, residential care, or even a hospital environment. Credentials should be portable and reciprocal, following the worker, not staying with their employer. And probably, maybe most importantly, they need to be accessible and cost efficient so that there's not a barrier to participation. And the long-term goal is to advance a universal system. What matters most is quality and competency, not your job title, your setting, or which program you're part of. And if this gets done correctly, everyone benefits. Workers gain recognition and mobility, employers get a better prepared workforce, and people receiving care get high quality support that they deserve. So this is the credentialing scheme. This shows kind of the overall scheme that's been designed for a stackable credentialing pathway leading into a certified direct care worker designation. So at the top, you'll see fundamentals 1, and I'll get into I'll come to this, I'll get back to it at the end, and I'll tell you the process about how we've kind of worked on development. But at the top, you'll see fundamentals 1. This is the starting point for everyone, regardless of where they work or what setting they're in, and it covers the essential baseline competencies that every DCW needs to be successful. Once someone completes fundamentals 1, they can move on to fundamentals 2, which goes into deeper skills that build on that foundation, preparing them for more specialized tasks. And from there, DCWs have 2 credentials to complete: the home and direct care specialist, which focuses on IADLs, meal prep, light housekeeping, supporting people in their homes, etc. And then the personal direct care specialist credential, which focuses on ADLs. So activities of daily living. And once a candidate has taken and passed all 4 credentials, they receive the direct care worker certification. And this certification is portable, meaning it goes with them no matter where they are employed. And it's designed to be recognized across payers and programs. And the model is built on the idea of having a clear stackable pathway. So someone can start with the basics, advance step by step, and ultimately achieve a recognized certification that reflects the full range of their skills. And this is the structure we were working toward as we developed the credential. And so after sharing that, and again, I'll come back to this slide at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the actual development process, because it's been a lot, but I think it's important for people to see how the process has combined kind of technical expertise with DCW lived experience and expertise to create something that recognizes what DCWs know and can do. Well, Jenny might redesign this graphic in the future, but for now, this is what we got. It's a lot on one slide. So this is the full certification development process. Right now, it's laid out in 8 steps, start to finish. But again, it reflects a scaffolded iterative process between DCWs, credentialing experts, Impart Alliance, and CSW. It's centered DCW's human experience, had their experience validated with data. And now this is where we are now, is actually working on a structure that ensures that their experience is recognized formally and works for the workforce. And before, I was like, is anybody in this room in these pictures? TBD. Before I walk through the steps that I just showed, I just want to pause on this slide. This is just a snapshot of what I mean when I say that this is a person-centered certification process. Again, I know people on this call know that and have participated in this process, but for those who may not be as familiar, we've got subject matter experts literally staying at the wall, sorting and naming the tasks of their work. In some of our convenings, you can see there's another picture, direct care workers sat shoulder to shoulder with other partners, so employers, state leaders, facilitators. And in these workshops, in these events, DCWs were co-creators, debating, prioritizing, and validating every competency that went into informing this credentialing framework and the certification program. And throughout all the steps that I'm going to talk about in a minute, there's been scaffolding around worker voice, providing technical support, psychometric expertise, and project management that kept everything on track while keeping DCWs at the center. And so that's the process that I'm going to describe in a minute here. So the certification development process began with a job task analysis, or what is actually formally called a DACM JTA, a job task analysis that's been conducted via a process that's called Define a Curriculum. That's what DACM stands for. This is perhaps the most critical step in the process because it sets the foundation for everything that follows. So it started by gathering a group of 17 Michigan DCWs to serve as subject matter experts. We'll refer to them as SMEs throughout this process. And in these focus groups, we asked SMEs, DCW SMEs, to map out their work. There was conversations about every single task, and we captured their language, examples, pain points. And then once that was complete, we took the findings from those focus groups and launched a statewide validation survey. And it's tremendous that we got this many folks to respond. Over 1,600 Michigan DCWs responded, giving us hard data on the importance, frequency, and criticality of each task that came up in those focus groups. And this 2-step process, qualitative focus groups plus quantitative survey validation, is what makes the JTA such a strong asset and a basis for stackable credentials leading into a certification. It ensured that we're not like building here a credential based on kind of expert, some sort of top-down kind of view of what DCWs are doing, but evidence from the field of workers at scale. And so by the end of this step, there's a pretty clear data-driven picture of what it takes to do this work well. And that is 52 validated tasks, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that go with these tasks, and the tools and resources needed to complete these tasks. In the next step, our SMEs took those 52 validated tasks and sorted them into the right credentials and confirmed that each one aligned with overall objectives. And this is a big lift. It took 5 full-day in-person workshops. The first day was spent mapping out the overall credential structure and then devoting 1 full day to each of the 4 stackable credentials I showed before. And each day, a group of SMEs got together to carefully select, who were carefully selected to reflect a mix of employer types, care settings, and demographic diversity. We wanted to make sure that what was being designed as a credential wasn't just for one setting or one type of DCW. And so In the bidding process, SMEs talked about things: which tasks belong together, is anything important missing, and if the language is going to make sense to workers across settings. But this helped turn what was kind of a long, overwhelming list of tasks into a clear, accessible framework, something that could be assessed via something like an exam. And again, once again at this step, DCWs were helping to build this skeleton of the credential. From there, we moved into item writing. Once all the tasks were validated and organized, it was time to actually start writing exam questions. And I should note too, just so everybody here knows, like, it's not like I have expertise in exam development in this way. I kind of learned about this process as we were working with our partners too. So it's been really an interesting thing to see how this happens. And item writing was a really exciting step for this. So once all the tasks were validated and organized, it was time to start writing exam questions. When we say items, what we really mean is exam questions. As a first item writing step, 16 SMEs came together for 3 to 4 days of in-person workshops. And instead of just asking them to write questions, they were asked to tell stories of their real-world experiences. And these experiences, combined with the JTA, became the foundation for different kinds of exam questions. So scenario-based questions, where the kind where worker has to choose what they would do next in a realistic situation, as well as more traditional multiple choice items. And after in-person workshops, we moved into virtual item writing, which is where 5 to 7 thought leaders, SMEs, kept writing independently over the course of 2 weeks with support from psychometricians at GSX, our partner. There were kickoff sessions, check-ins, and GSX and psychometricians provide coaching along the way. This led to a robust item bank of possible credentialing exam questions. So this is like a bank of like essentially kind of finalized draft questions, right? Then there's another step. So you can see there's all these like steps for checking. One step happens and we got to make sure for quality and accuracy and that sort of thing, kind of there's another step of review. So after items were written, essentially drafted, we moved on to the item review. So that's after a full bank of items have been fleshed out via storytelling and virtual writing, a fresh group of 10 DCW SMEs came to step in as peer reviewers. And over a 2-week period, these SMEs went through every single question, carefully reviewing them for clarity, accuracy, and generalizability. So making sure things were like written in plain, understandable language, free of jargon, and relevant to the wide variety of settings where DCWs work. And this feedback loop gave us the chance to revise and strengthen items. In the next step is where things are kind of close the loop when it comes to actually developing the exam questions. And that's item finalization and response rating. At this stage, a group of SMEs were brought back for a series of virtual workshops to resolve any remaining issues. And this is where all the peer review feedback came in from step 4 and the group made decisions about how to revise, rewrite, and when necessary, retire draft items that just weren't going to work. And it wasn't just about the questions at this stage, it's also about the answers. And this is kind of a key part of the process. Through response rating sessions with 10 to 12 SMEs, participants were asked to weigh the effectiveness of each response option. So, kind of multiple choice answer responses. This was about more than picking one right answer. It's actually about ensuring that the best response, the right answer, represents best practice in the field, and that the distractors, which are kind of the wrong answer someone could pick, reflect realistic mistakes a worker might make. And this psychometric process is what makes the exam defensible. It gives confidence that workers who pass have truly demonstrated knowledge and judgment required, and workers who don't pass receive a fair signal that they might need more preparation before moving forward with the credential. And it's funny, the last time I did this, we had not finished the pilot. We're actually recruiting people, but the piloting is complete. So the next stage for this process was conducting a pilot exam. So over hundreds of direct DCWs who met eligibility criteria were recruited, and then over 200 SMEs actually took the pilots. And it was a critical step because it allowed us to gather real world performance data, looking at how DCWs performed on each question. Were some items too easy or too hard? Did certain questions confuse test takers? Were there patterns across care settings or other identity groups that we need to address? And this pilot data is really important. It gives the opportunity to refine the exam and make sure that it's both challenging and fair. And then after that, we moved into standard settings. So bringing 20 SMEs together for this step. And these SMEs determined the passing score. And they did this by considering both data from the pilot and their expert judgment about what a minimally competent DCW test taker should know and be able to do. And so with the pilot data analyzed and the passing score set, we moved into technical analyses that were done by our partners at GSX. And so I kind of hinted at that before, but this is a step where they're making sure that the exam is statistically sound, looking at things like question difficulty, reliability. Would a DCW get the same result if they took a different form of the exam? Things like that. And this layer of analysis gives us confidence that the credential is rigorous and defensible, so that every DCW who earns it has demonstrated the same level of competence. And with the psychometric analyses complete, GSX is currently working on one of the final steps, which is creating the exam forms and making sure that DCWs have what they need to prepare via the candidate handbook. So at this stage, right now, GSX is taking the validated, rated, and analyzed items, questions, and assembling final production exam forms. And these forms will balance difficulty levels, cover all of the required competencies. And as I mentioned before, and I'll just mention again, the way we've set up the process is that they meet national standards for credentialing. And alongside the exam, there will be a candidate handbook. And so one was developed for the pilot, and then that will get updated for when the exams are actually, exams are actually launched. And the candidate handbook is going to be really useful. It'll lay out everything a DCW needs to know before taking the test, as well as recommendations for who should take the tests. I keep saying tests, but it's multiple exams. And this kind of transparency is important because we don't want the goal isn't to have someone walking into the exams feeling surprised or uncertain about what's in them. We want folks to feel ready and confident and know what's going to be on these exams without, short of giving away the questions. So again, this is the credentialing scheme. I just want to come back to this because I've gone through that process. All the steps I just talked about, this is where they're going to lead. And again, these are stackable credentials. And if you basically pass for each one, you will obtain direct care worker certification. And again, workers start with fundamentals 1 to cover essential entry-level competencies, progress to fundamentals 2, they build more advanced skills, and then they earn 2 specialist credentials, one focused on IADLs and one focused on ADLs. And when all 4 credentials are earned, workers can receive the DCW certification, which is portable, industry recognized, they can take with them everywhere. And so I'm going to talk about just briefly, and Claire touched it on before, where we're at right now. Impart Alliance is working with CSW, and as I mentioned before, K-West, other partners, and focus to choose a seasoned test administration vendor to house the certifications on behalf of Impart Alliance. And right, so where are we today? At this point, the credentials and certification program are clearly defined and competency-based. The program has been intentionally designed to match national certification standards. And one thing that this means is that there's clear separation between test development and administration and any training. And this structure is what protects kind of fairness, quality, and trust in the credential. And importantly, this work is going to be housed within Impart Alliance, which provides long-term stewardship, data governance, and alignment with Michigan's workforce goals. And so all of this is actively underway right now, determining the operational infrastructure to support the launch of these credentials and the overall certification program. And I just wanted to point out, like at CSW, we think and talk a lot about employers, so it's great to get a chance to talk with you all today. Employers have a role to play in the success of the credential, right? When employers recognize the DCW credentials and the certification overall, they play a role in making sure that the credentials have a real labor market value. In some sense, employer practices are one of the strongest levers in the credentialing system. When employers support workers' ability to access the credentials too, through time off, flexibility, financial support, etc., they can shape who can and will benefit from the credentials and the certification program overall. And with that, that's it for me, presentation wise. If you have any questions, obviously reach out to Claire. And I had my contact information on there too. Okay, I sped through it in case we can have a discussion.
You did speed through it, but it was fabulous. It was a really great job.
Yeah, good job, Jenny. I am amazed at all of how much you covered and how much work this all took to probably put together. But yeah, great overview.
Awesome.
We're going to open it up to questions, and I see Debbie, who was involved in the process, has her
Yeah.
hand up. Yeah.
I always have questions.
Yes, you do.
So one I'm wondering is one of the final things, DCW certification, direct care worker certification. If I know, like for some of our employees, they don't want to do personal care. So like, the ADLs, the bathing, so I'm just trying to figure out this certification. How does that affect, they'll have the credentials like the level, 1, 2, and probably 3, but how does that affect the actual certification? Like, can they get certified in just those 3?
And Claire, I'll leave it for you to chime in, but each level is a standalone. There's different terms in like the certification world. They'll be considered like micro credentials or badges, but they are standalone credentials on their own. So now in terms of speaking to, so that's what I would say. But Claire, I don't know if you have anything else to say.
No, that's what I would say too.
Okay.
Because this was very intentional.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak on behalf of the Direct Care Workforce Advisory Committee at the moment, because Debbie, as you know, we have been discussing 4 new levels of direct care workers very intentionally for a reason. And part of it is because we have discovered, especially during this process, what a wide range of direct care workers there are. They're engaged in anything from being in a job coach in a voc rehab center, all the way to 24/7 care at end of life, doing all the personal hands-on care. But we have to come up with a system where, somebody who is never going to do personal care, doesn't have to go through 75, 80 hours of training when they know they're never going to use that in order to become certified. So the end goal is to just make sure that that direct care workers have the competencies they need in order to do the job that they're being asked to do. And we wanted, and plus I'm talking to the choir here, we need direct care workers, right? There's a shortage. We need to train direct care workers and get them into the workforce as quickly as we can. So we wanted to come up with different grades of direct care work. These are the people that have the fundamental skills. These are the skills that every direct care worker should have before they go see anybody. And then, here's a group that has a little bit more knowledge. So that first level, they can get a credential, be credentialed, and get out there and start working. And they can continue on with the other levels if they so choose, or they might just choose to stay, with that one credential. So it's built intentionally for those reasons.
I knew it was built that way, is just the way it was presented. It sounded like with that final thing, the DCW certification, it just changed a little bit of, I don't know how to quite say this right, the perception or whatever, like that really is the end goal, which I knew it wasn't, that anyone could do any of those level, So I was just trying to figure out how that DCW certification will be used then or presented, because I think all of these are really important depending on what the DCW wants to do.
Mhm.
And so it makes it seem like those others aren't as important, and they really are.
I
Does that
just
make, does that
Yeah,
make sense?
that's my bad. The second I said it, I shouldn't have said it. I used a term
No.
that treated fundamentals as entrance into some sort of longer pathway. That I recognize it when I said it. That was my bad. That is definitely not how we've been talking about it. And so to your point, I think we've been talking about them as just all of the things that you've been saying. That they're standalone credentials that you will get, so you know what I mean? You will get recognition of that once you're done. Yeah, so I
And
just
I,
want to
di-
acknowledge
and
that.
I, no, and I don't in any way, I'm not upset at you or feel like you did anything wrong. I was just trying to figure out, like, moving forward, when this is, I mean, because I think this is amazing. I cannot believe how far we've come. Like, watching I'm just in awe, honestly. So I was just trying to figure out how this is going to come across and how we make it seem to the DCWs, depending on what they do want to do, that it's really important what the certificate they got. And so that last certificate made it seem a little bit different, if that makes any sense.
So may I interject just for a moment? Yeah, I think that, Jenny, I think you're fine the way you presented it. It was partly so that everybody could understand this incredible, crazy process we've gone through to make sure that every one of those levels gets a credential, right? Um, so, but you're right, we need to make sure it's clear when we roll this out that every one of those credentials is really important and has a place in all of this. So one of the things, some of it is all going to be around the marketing and how we frame this. And we have a graphic artist actually right now working on a visual of career pathways within direct care work. And it's got a little guy walking around and it shows going down different paths. And you might go to credential one and decide to stay there because you love that work right there, right? Or you have the option of going down yet another path and getting the credential two, or going off to be a CNA, or something else. So there's going to be all of these pathways, and the part of the point of all of this is to make sure that we increase options for direct care workers, and every one of these options gets its due respect, has a credential that's recognized across I think the difference with the top one is that it's completely portable. You can, a person with all four certifications really can be portable, move across settings, work with all different populations. So, they have the ADL skills, the IADL, they have all of those skills. So there's more portability. And I encourage you to come to the next Lunch and Learn because it's going to be on the career success model, which is all about, okay, you want to be a direct care worker? What kind of direct care worker do you want to be? These are all important. This is what these direct care workers do. This is what these direct care workers do. And then some career coaching in terms of, okay, well then, this level one credential might be perfect for you kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Claire, it looks like Angela had a question. I don't know if she still has one. And then
Yeah,
Donna put something in
Angela.
the chat. You
It
still there,
wasn't so
Angela?
much as a question, but I just wanted to say, Jenny, that was a great presentation of it. And Claire, when I'm talking to like moms and like that self-determination kind of pod of people, when I'm telling them about the credentialing, I'm saying it's really, like you said, stackable, customizable. And in the self-D model, like I said, it also puts that back to the DCW. If you're thinking about getting in, this is a great opportunity because just like our clients are super unique, we can build our credentials around what we are interested in. And I feel like that's like the perfect fit then.
Perfect way to put that. We should be well, this is recorded, so we will transform that into some marketing materials because that's exactly what we're trying to do. And I should add that we're also going to be developing specialty classes. So, and I'm hoping that at some point we'll be able to issue certificates for those too. So,
Funny you should mention that. I just made slides around that, like a whole half-hour presentation, just FYI.
well, let us know what specialty classes you want, because we're working on those right now. And again, it is to do what you're saying, Angela, and that's to customize your own career, right? It empowers you to really take some control over your career, which is what Candra is all about. So, and then there's a nice comment here from Donna, who says we have found training is empowering and sometimes moves a direct care worker beyond what they think they want to do to a next level of care. So, other questions for Jenny? Or comments, suggestions?
I'm just amazed. Jenny, you did an awesome job. I'm just amazed, you guys. This is just like from, 2020. I'm just amazed. So thank you. It's just awesome.
And we appreciate you, Debbie. There is something about this, like, look, this has been very like in like process orient, even down to the credentialing scheme. This specific visual was like really built for like how will these pieces come together. The language is not like I'm just mindful of what you're saying at the fundamentals 1 and fundamentals 2 level, right? Like and getting a credential and kind of what it says. And to Claire's point, like there's pieces around marketing. We definitely want the credentials to like be human centered, right? And so is there more kind of language pieces around that? Maybe. So it's just something to consider. I think that's where you were going with that, right? That it's like
Exactly. Because I know, yeah, because I've been in the process the whole time. So I did know how they're supposed to go, but I just wanted to make sure that and Claire, how you described it after is perfect. I mean, because I think that will let the DCWs know what it means. So yes, that was exactly my point, Jenny.
yeah.
And I'm going to add a little really, really super encouraging footnote here. Because Lauren, you all know Lauren Swanson April from MDHHS, she and I have had several meetings now with the folks at Lara. Because 2 years ago, when we started this process, we asked a lot of people, if we are able to pull this off, in the end, where do you see this housed? Where would you like to see this housed? Should it be through Laura, like the CNAs, Lara, or should it be through the Direct Care Career Center that we're trying to build, or, some standalone entity? And Lara, to be frank, wasn't interested in it. And partly because, they have the whole CNA program and being able to recognize a whole nother certification, professional certification would be a lot of work on their part. But we have been meeting with, we've had 3 meetings now. The last one was this morning, and they are 100% on board with this, and they want to know how they can help. And they know that right now it will not be housed in Lara, but they now see the value in having parallel certification processes, one for CNAs, one for direct care workers, and that they can really complement each other. That, they're distinct enough that it's important to have both. They have come a long way, and I've been in awe just being part of those discussions with the folks at Lara. So it's really good to know that everything we've done, they've been part of the process, they're aware of it, and they're in support of it.
And I think something else I just want to say, and I know I'm talking a lot, but Angela and Catherine, your voices are so important to this whole process. Like, I know as an agency, like we all come from a different place. And so it's so important. It's amazing to me that we've been able to do this to work for different types of settings. Like, it really is, it is amazing. So I'm so glad for Angela and Catherine's voice throughout all of this, as well as everyone else on here. But I, get to hear their voices maybe a little bit more than others. So
Thank
Shannon.
you so much. It's been nice. I've been on a couple of things when we're working together, and everybody would understand when I put my hand up and say, "This doesn't sound like my job setting." Everybody took that great, including you, Debbie. So thank you.
you're welcome. I just think it helps us all to understand better, like, where we're all coming from and then how it can work for all of us. Like, because I don't hear about it, I don't understand others. You know what I mean? So it's just been amazing. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I'll say at the very beginning, when we were going through the JTA process that Jenny was talking about, and we brought in all of these SMEs and said, okay, what do direct care workers do? And I think, Angela, you were there, and maybe you too, Debbie, but everybody started listing all the things they do, and they weren't even aware, and somebody would say, this is what we do, and somebody else would say, well, that's not what direct care workers do. So it took us quite a while to realize, no, indeed, they're all direct care workers. Everybody, and it's you just have different tasks in different settings or with different populations or different programs, and that's where we're trying to get at something that's a little more universal. So, but initially, yeah, I think Angela, you kept speaking up, saying, "Wait a minute, I don't see myself in there." And that was the whole point of it, right? We needed everybody to see themselves in this. Shannon, you had your hand up before.
I've just been clapping and applauding. I'm cheerleading over here.
Others on the phone right now. What are your thoughts on all of this? Terry, clapping, yay. Terry's been part of this process all the way through, so I don't know, Terry, if you want to give a little bit of insight into your experience.
My turtle is still up here on the top of here's my little turtle. He's been here the whole time.
You got to
Um,
explain that one.
Gosh, it was a long time ago, Train the Trainer, before we had all the concrete stuff that we have. And Claire, you were kind of explaining your vision and recognized that it was going to be a really long, slow journey, but that we would get there. And I believed you. And so he's stuck with me. So yeah,
Well,
I'm
thank you
just
for sticking with us.
yeah, happy to be part of the driving force. I think it's Debbie's right. It's incredible to see the progress that's been made and the partners that have come to the table with such passion and the skill set that has kind of helped tweak everything is it's exciting. The time is ripe. It's way overdue. And it's just it's good to see it like come to life, Kudos.
The reference to the turtle comes
Yeah.
from, the tortoise and the
Yeah.
hare, where you have, let's just do this one step at a time, one step at a time. And
Quickly.
then slow and steady, and in the end, the tortoise wins the race. So we just have to keep that in mind. Catherine.
I just wanted to say that I think it's absolutely wonderful and amazing for Laura to see the value of these curriculums. And also, for anyone who wants it, I have a specialty class that I wrote on assisting people with medical complexities. And we're waiting for the final touches on a class on ableism, microaggression, and internalized ableism under the specialty category.
Yeah, I want to applaud Catherine, who really worked hard on those two specialty classes as part of Impart Alliance staff. So it's a great job.
Thank you.
Is there anybody on the call that has concerns about any of this?
You mean besides money?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's so many ways to answer that one. Our hope is that things will shape up the way they're supposed to. Here in America, if you get higher education, you're supposed to get higher wages, right? Theoretically, that's the plan. So that's another advocacy issue that we're working on parallel to this is eventually, you get these credentials, you should be making more money. That's part of it. So career progression. Any other concerns about it?
Tom said, send me Shannon's last name.
I think advocacy is an important part of this and learning how to advocate the right way. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be, I don't know if I should call it political, but, advocacy within, the state of Michigan. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be an important part as well. And I'm worried about the money as well and the advocacy.
And I will, I know we're coming up on the hour. I want to just say how important the employer voice is. And we have said all along, we're not going to get anywhere on any of this if the employers are not at the table and recognize the value in what we're trying to do. And, for 5 years ago, the employers, I don't think were ready for this. At the Direct Care Worker Conference back in October, Jenny did this brilliant presentation then, and there was pushback by some in the group because employers are understandably concerned about unfunded mandates. For example, if at some point in time this becomes mandatory, that I want to assure you that we recognize that the cost of it cannot fall to the employers alone. It can't fall to the direct care workers and it can't fall alone to the employers. So I know we're trying to anticipate some of the concerns that the employers might have so that we can address them beforehand so that we can keep this process moving. So that's, I know that's has been a big concern of employers. But we can't do this without the employers. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I do want, Kendra, yes.
Yeah, so as an independent contractor consultant with Empire working on the career awareness for DCWs, it was really great to hear the presentation today, Jenny, and learn about that process with credentialing coming from a profession such as social work that has been through that years ago before I became a social worker, and recognizing the importance and what this is going to do for the public reputation and image of DCWs. And also, one of the things I'm developing and talk to Claire more about is to have a future lunch and learn where we're here, we learn about the process, where the next one can maybe talk about what does this look like in practice for those who may be concerned. Okay, now that we have competencies, what does this mean? So I'm thinking about, okay, well, you can use this for hiring qualified staff. How do you identify them? For targeted training. So you can assess, okay, this is where they need to be. This is the standard of care that's expected. Even if you don't have all 4 levels, you have 1 or 0, we can still create training. We can still create evaluation or performance management tools to say, this is where you need to be, and working with those DCWs to make sure they meet that standard of care. And then it goes into organizational effectiveness. How can you use these competencies to strengthen your organization? Therefore, because you're looking out for your people and their professional development, their training needs. So that's one of the things I like to do with this in the future, to help create that so the employers can make that connection between having something new like this. What does it mean for them and their employees?
Well said.
Sure. The JTA comes to mind when you mention all of that for sure, as like this wealth of knowledge. Yeah.
Well, we've achieved so much. Now we have to use it as a springboard to get us to the next level, right? So yay, Jenny. Thank you everybody for being on this call and for your dedication just to helping, expand and support the direct care workforce, because that benefits all of us. It benefits you, it benefits everybody and the people receiving services. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And please come to the next ELC business meeting, if you will, which again is on the 19th at 9. And Chanel will send out information about that. So thank you, Jenny.
I'm working on it.
Thank you for having me. It was tremendous.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.